over the past couple weeks, we've been touching on the Switch hacking scene here and there, whether it's the kernel being dumped, for example, or the fact that some of the games are now dumped into almost like a ROM format, and that has some people kind of nervous. Now, there's some people who want the Switch to be hacked, obviously, they're working on it, they're trying to make it happen, and then there's some fans who would like that to happen because then the Switch is opened up to homebrew. Keep in mind, it generally also gets opened up to piracy, and that is what has people kind of nervous on the other side. They don't want piracy to be opened up and really damage and hurt the Switch in terms of retail sales, for example, because, well, we've seen it before where the PSP got badly hacked and then there was no point in buying any games because you could download them and just throw them right on the PSP and play without having to spend any money. And I've noticed that over time, as we talk about it, people in the comments get pretty nervous, right? They go, well, I don't want that to happen. I wish the hackers would stop doing that. Well, we've kind of heard one side of the situation, right? Where it sounds like, man, that the people who are trying to hack the Switch are getting really, really close, right? They're dumping the kernel, they're getting the games dumped. It's only a matter of time. Well, okay, there's a couple ways to look at this. The one that's very interesting on the opposite side is, you remember when Nintendo started talking about offering bounties for exploits or vulnerabilities in their system? Well, it seems like money really does work here in this situation because it looks like people are reporting vulnerabilities. So the way this works, Nintendo set up an account on HackerOne.com. It's a site you can go on as a company, or if you have an app or something and you want it to stay secured, or you have a system, in place and you want it to stay secured. Well, you go on HackerOne, you sign up, and you start paying people to report exploits or vulnerabilities in your program, operating system, your game console, whatever. And a lot of companies use this. Not even just like, think of like a game console company like Nintendo. No, you have places like Adobe, with the full suite and everything, like Photoshop, Premiere, all of that stuff. They're signed up to try to get people to give them vulnerabilities they can then patch. You also have places like General Motors who's signed up and doing that. Now, this site has been around since 2012 when it was founded and created, and it's an interesting idea to really give people who have those kind of talents to find those bugs in the system that can really give people access to running unsigned code, and then giving it to the company in exchange for money. I mean, it seems like it makes a lot of sense, right? You kind of take people who would normally hurt your system or try to unlock it, and instead of have them put it out to the public, they come to you, show you what they're talking about, and then you pay them money to fix it. Now, as far as I can tell, you kind of have to at least give them an idea of what they can do to really fix it, or at least how you really replicated that issue so they can do it and then fix it. And then there's a whole process. They basically submit it, they verify if it is correct, and then they pay you out what they believe to be fair. Now, Nintendo has offered a minimum of $100 per entry. So if there is something you find, even if it's little, and they deem it as being needed to be fixed, they will pay you a minimum of $100. And according to them, it can go all the way up to $20,000 if it's something, I guess it has to be something dire to their system to pay you that much. Like, it has to be a major deal. And the interesting thing is, on HackerOne.com, you can go onto that account. You can look right now if you want. You can go on HackerOne.com/Nintendo, which I will leave in the description. You can go check it out yourself. And if you go under the Thanks tab, you can see how many people have submitted vulnerabilities or exploits and then received compensation for that. That means the whole process went through. It was a vulnerability they found out about, it was patched, and everything looks good. Under their tab, there are technically right now 6 different successful, submissions here. And what's interesting is 4 of those have popped up over the past couple weeks, so those are pretty new. These are things that have been found more than likely because this does technically reflect Switch or 3DS exploits. The fact that this whole campaign was started in December of 2016, remember we were talking about this late last year, and now people are starting to come up with stuff. I feel like this was geared, in Nintendo's eyes, more towards the Switch, right? It's their new, super popular handheld / hybrid game console, and they want it to stay safe. They want it to stay really exploit free at this point, right? They don't want people to be able to hack it and load games because that'll damage, really, the way third parties look at that could damage it in their eyes. So they want to make sure it is clear. And this whole thing is interesting because we're getting these patches, security updates. More than likely, it has to do with what we're seeing here with these successful entries. In fact, people on modding forums are getting very nervous about this because they've also found out, it was documented on Switch Brew, that there's not going to be an easy way to downgrade the Switch. They found that in the bootloader where it triggers all of these different flags that will, if it finds out it's been attempted to be downgraded, it can actually brick your system. So A lot of people now are just not updating their Switch if they're hoping at this point for any kind of homebrew or unlock, which means if they're doing that now on 3.0, how are they going to play games that are like 2 years from now? They would have to create custom firmware. It would be a whole thing if they can even get it done. So I know a lot of people are super excited about things like the kernel being dumped, games being dumped. But really, guys, it's not even close to being hacked. And they're finding out now that it's going to be very difficult to do anything to the Switch. I wouldn't expect to go online anytime soon and find out anything about exploits for the Switch. In fact, I have a feeling, as we're seeing here, it might be more interesting for them to just turn it in and get some cash. I mean, why not? It doesn't tell us how much they were paid, but let's say you find a pretty good exploit and you show it to Nintendo and they're like, listen, we'll pay you $2,000 for the exploit. What are you going to do? Are you going to be like, nah, I'll just put it out for free. It's not a big deal. Or are you going to say, all right, let's get this patched up and you can send me that check? I feel like most people would be like, well, money's needed in life, so yeah, here you go. I do think it's going to be interesting going forward to see how this thanks page with the successful submission grows. I mean, we get to the point where there's 20 of them, and really they keep popping up as we go along, and the Switch keeps getting patched as things are found out in the community. People grab them and just run over there with them and tell them, hey, look, I managed to open up this part of the Switch for a possible exploit to be run. Let's get it patched. It's very interesting, and guys, like I said, not necessarily being hacked. When you hear about these kernel dumps, these possibilities of entryways in, keep in mind there are people who are just looking for the bounty, and there's a chance that they'll figure it out and just pass it on to Nintendo. They patch it, and then that kind of seals up that little crack in the foundation. But that's it for now, guys. I'll see you later on tonight for Spawncast.